15. Black actors who slept their way to the top. You'll be shocked. Here's a lie Hollywood has repeated for 30 years. That when a black actor rises fast, it couldn't possibly be talent. There had to be a favor, a relationship. A door opened the wrong way. 15 of the biggest stars alive have had that whisper attached to their names. An Oscar winner who trained at Juilliard. A woman who beat 1,000 others for one role. A teenager the tabloids blamed for her own abuse. Today, we're not putting the actors on trial. We're putting the rumor on trial. And the receipts are shocking. Stay to the end, because the last question this raises is one Hollywood has never dared answer. And subscribe to Secret Celebrity Stories, where talent gets the truth it deserves. Viola Davis. For years, a quiet, ugly whisper followed Viola Davis, that a powerful showrunner must have simply handed her the role of a lifetime. Anyone who says that has never truly looked at the life behind the woman. When How to Get Away with Murder arrived in 2014, Davis played Annalise Keating with a raw, unguarded power that television had rarely been brave enough to hold. And in 2015, she became the very first black woman to win the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series, a category that had existed since 1954, more than 60 years. Standing at that podium, she did not celebrate herself. She quoted Harriet Tubman and named the truth plainly. The only thing that separates women of color from anyone else is opportunity. That was not a woman who had been given something. That was a woman who had spent 30 years earning everything, twice over. She was born in 1965 in St. Matthews, South Carolina, and raised in wrenching poverty in Central Falls, Rhode Island, before training at Juilliard, one of the most demanding conservatories in the world. She won a Tony in 2001, and then, with only about 8 minutes of screen time in doubt, she stood toe-to-toe with Meryl Streep and earned an Oscar nomination. By the time she reached that television role, she was already among the most decorated stage actors America had ever produced, and in 2016, she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Fences, completing the rare triple crown of acting held by only a handful of performers in history. The notion that anyone gave Viola Davis her career simply dissolves against a resume built one impossible role at a time. The rumor was never really about her. It was about an industry that could not imagine a dark-skinned woman being, quite simply, the finest actor in the room, which is exactly what she has always been. Halle Berry. From the very beginning of her career, a rumor trailed Halle Berry like a shadow. The suggestion that her breakthrough owed more to a director's affection than to the work she did in front of his camera. The truth is, the story of a woman who fought for every chance and then outworked every last doubt. Born in 1966, in Cleveland, Ohio, Berry began in beauty pageants and modeling, before landing a small but pivotal role in Spike Lee's Jungle Fever in 1991, playing Vivian, a woman lost to drug addiction. She reportedly pushed hard for that unglamorous part and famously refused to bathe for days in order to disappear fully into it, hardly the behavior of someone looking for an easy path. What followed was a decade of range that no favor on earth could have manufactured. She earned wide acclaim and then a Golden Globe and an Emmy for the 1999 television film Introducing Dorothy Dandridge. And then came the night that made history. In 2002, for her utterly fearless work in Monsters Ball, Halle Berry became the first and, heartbreakingly, still the only, black woman ever to win the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her tearful acceptance speech, dedicated to every nameless, faceless woman of color who now has a chance, remains one of the most moving moments in Oscar history. She went on to become a global star, playing the weather-controlling Storm across the X-Men films and a Bond woman in Die Another Day, moving between prestige drama and blockbuster spectacle with ease. The whisper that a man's attention explained her rise never once accounted for the simple, stubborn truth at the heart of her story. Halle Berry sought out the hardest roles available to her and delivered them so completely that the Academy could not look away. The rumor needed her to be merely fortunate. The record shows a woman who was relentless. Chadwick Boseman. With Chadwick Boseman, the rumor took perhaps its laziest and most painful form. The suggestion that his casting as the lead of Black Panther owed something to a personal bond with his director, rather than to the quiet, monumental discipline he carried into everything he ever did. The truth is almost unbearable in how completely it refutes the lie. Born in 1976 in Anderson, South Carolina, Boseman trained at Howard University and later studied at Oxford, and he spent long, patient years as a working actor and playwright before Hollywood finally turned to look at him. And when it did, he did not play just anyone. He chose to carry the icons. He became Jackie Robinson in 42, James Brown in Get On Up, and the future Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall in Marshall, inhabiting three of the most demanding real-life figures in American history before he ever pulled on the Black Panther suit. His director cast a man who had already proven, again and again, that he could bear the weight of an entire people's hopes. Black Panther went on to earn more than $1.3 billion around the world, became the first superhero film ever nominated for Best Picture, and forever changed what global cinema believed a Black-led story could achieve. And then came the fact that silenced every cynic on earth. Boseman had filmed several of those towering roles, Black Panther among them, while privately enduring colon cancer, quietly moving between surgeries and chemotherapy and the camera, telling almost no one. When he died in 2020, at just 43 years old, the world realized it had been watching a man give absolutely everything, in silence, in pain, and never once asking for pity. He was later awarded a posthumous Golden Globe for his final performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. To suggest that anything but character explained Chadwick Boseman is not merely wrong. It dishonors one of the most profound acts of dedication the industry has ever unknowingly witnessed. Lupita Nyong'o. The rumor could not even find its footing with Lupita Nyong'o, for the simplest of reasons. There was no long career behind her for anyone to whisper about. Director Steve McQueen auditioned more than 1,000 women for the role of Patsy in 12 Years a Slave, comparing the search itself to the legendary hunt for Scarlett O'Hara, and the woman he finally chose had never once appeared in a feature film in her entire life. She was born in 1983 in Mexico City to Kenyan parents, her father a senator, and she grew up in Nairobi before studying film and theater at Hampshire College in Massachusetts, working humbly as a production assistant, and then earning her master's from the Yale School of Drama in 2012. The 12 Years a Slave screenplay was, remarkably, the very first script she received as a professional actress. What she was not remotely prepared for was winning an Academy Award for that debut. The role of Patsy is among the most harrowing ever written. A woman who is at once the most skilled worker on a brutal Louisiana plantation and the object of her enslaver's violent obsession, a part demanding that an actress hold terror, dignity, and grief, all in a single breath. McQueen said he saw in her an almost supernatural blend of vulnerability and strength that 1,000 other women simply could not offer. She won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, becoming the first Kenyan ever to do so, and walked directly from that stage into Star Wars, Black Panther, and Jordan Peele's Us. There was never any ladder for her to climb the wrong way. Lupita Nyong'o arrived at the very summit by mastering one of the hardest roles in modern film, on her first attempt, carrying nothing but a Yale degree and the memory of 1,000 auditions that were never hers. She has since become the first Black woman named a global ambassador for a major luxury house and an author of a best-selling children's book about colorism. Ice Cube. No rumor about charm or seduction could ever survive its first contact with the real reason Ice Cube became a movie star. And that very absurdity is precisely the point worth sitting with. In 1991, Ice Cube was not an actor at all. He had no film credits whatsoever. He was one of the founding architects of gangster rap, a member of NWA whose solo debut album, America's Most Wanted, had already sold more than 1 million copies and stirred a national storm of controversy. And John Singleton cast him as Doughboy in Boys on the Hood anyway, on pure instinct, because he needed someone who understood South Central Los Angeles, not as distant material to study, but as a life that had genuinely been lived. Doughboy is the tragic moral counterweight at the film's aching center, the young man who never finds a way out, whose capacity for violence is inseparable from his capacity for love, whose death near the film's end lands on the audience like a physical blow. Cube delivered it with a stillness and a natural authority that no acting school on earth could have taught him. And the film went on to earn $57.5 million against a budget of just $6.5 million. That single, unlikely role launched one of the most durable careers in all of American entertainment. Born O'Shea Jackson in 1969, he went on to write and star in the beloved Friday films, to build the family-friendly Are We There Yet franchise, to co-create the Barbershop movies, and even to found his own professional basketball league. His son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., would later play him in the biographical film Straight Outta Compton, a full-circle moment few careers ever earn. Whatever Hollywood's favorite whispered explanation for black success, it has never once dared to aim it at Ice Cube, because the answer is so plainly talent and vision. His career quietly shames the entire premise. Angela Bassett. To whisper that Angela Bassett ever needed anything other than her own formidable gift is to willfully ignore one of the most rigorously trained actors of her entire generation. She was born in 1958 in New York City and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida, and she earned not one but 2 degrees from Yale, an undergraduate degree, and then a master's from the renowned Yale School of Drama. That classical foundation alone causes the shortcut rumor to collapse the instant it is spoken aloud. She built her early career playing Trey's principled, watchful mother in Boys on the Hood, and then, in 1993, she gave the performance that ought to have ended every doubt about her forever. Tina Turner, in What's Love Got to Do with It? Bassett did not merely imitate the legend. She became her, training for months so that she could perform the physically punishing concert sequences herself. And she won the Golden Globe for Best Actress and earned an Academy Award nomination for it. In the 3 decades since, she has been an unshakable pillar of American film, from Waiting to Exhale to a commanding run in the Marvel Universe as the regal Queen Ramonda, a role that earned her an Oscar nomination for Wakanda Forever in 2023, making her the very first actor ever nominated for a performance in a Marvel film. The following year, the Academy honored her entire career with an honorary award. Bassett is so often cast as women of tremendous spine and sovereignty, and there is a simple reason for that. It is precisely what casting directors see the moment she walks into a room, a natural authority that cannot possibly be faked. The rumor mill's obsession with how black actresses really succeed has never had one single word that survives Angela Bassett's Yale transcript, her fearless Tina Turner, and a body of work assembled over decades, entirely through discipline and craft. She is, without exaggeration, one of the finest actors of her time. Naomi Campbell. The rumor that swirled around Naomi Campbell's casting in Empire back in 2015 was asking entirely the wrong question. Hollywood wanted to know why the director had chosen her, quietly implying some personal favor between 2 famous friends, when the honest answer was so obvious, so commercially sound, that no favor was ever needed to explain it. Empire was not an ordinary television show. It premiered in January of 2015 to 9.9 million viewers, and then it did something no American broadcast drama had ever managed before. Its ratings rose every single week, all the way to 17.6 million people by the season finale. A genuine cultural phenomenon like that requires star power that can communicate wealth, glamour, and danger the very instant a face appears on screen. And Naomi Campbell has been one of the most instantly recognizable human beings on the entire planet since the late 1980s. Born in London in 1970, she became one of the original supermodels, a woman who broke barriers as one of the first black models to appear on the covers of the world's most powerful fashion magazines, and a global symbol of exactly the kind of untouchable authority that Empire was built to portray. Cast as Camilla Marks, a woman who operates through beauty, intimidation, and cold calculation, Campbell was asked to do on camera precisely what she had already been doing professionally for 30 years, command a room through nothing more than her presence. Her casting brought a built-in audience, a wave of tabloid attention, and instant credibility to the show's fantasy of power and wealth. She and the director have long described a genuine friendship, and nothing beyond that has ever emerged. What emerged instead was a performance that served the series exactly as it was designed to. Hiring one of the most famous women alive to play a glamorous titan of industry is not a mystery. It is simply the most logical casting decision imaginable. Taraji P. Henson. The rumor fastened itself onto Taraji P. Henson the very moment Tyler Perry paid her what she was genuinely worth, as though being fairly valued by a powerful black producer somehow demanded a hidden explanation. It did not, and it never did. Henson has spoken openly over many years about the long stretch of her career in which she was badly underpaid across Hollywood, and about how Perry finally offered her the kind of money and the kind of substantial roles her talent had always deserved. The gossip machine, predictably, reached for its oldest and least imaginative story, that a successful black woman surely could not have simply been recognized and valued for the sheer quality of her work. Here is what the actual record shows. She was born in 1970 in Washington, D.C., studied theater at the historic Howard University, and broke through in Baby Boy in 2001. She earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button in 2009, a David Fincher film that had absolutely nothing to do with Tyler Perry. She won a Golden Globe for her unforgettable turn as Cookie Lyon in Empire, a role she won through a competitive process. And in 2017, she starred in Hidden Figures, one of the highest-grossing biographical dramas in recent memory, portraying the brilliant NASA mathematician Katherine Johnson. What Tyler Perry gave her was a fair paycheck and good roles at a pivotal moment. What she did with every single opportunity afterward was demonstrably, entirely her own. The rumor needed her hard-won success to belong to somebody else. Her Howard training, her body of work, and an Oscar nomination for a film Perry never touched make that borrowed explanation impossible to sustain. In 2019, she also received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a public marker of a career built entirely on her own merit. She was finally paid fairly, and then she proved, over and over again, precisely why she had earned it. Kerry Washington. When The Whisper finally reached Kerry Washington, it had to contend with a single statistic that reframes her entire career. When Scandal premiered on ABC on April 5, 2012, a black woman was the lead of a primetime network drama for the first time in 38 years. The last had been Teresa Graves in Get Christy Love, all the way back in 1974. For nearly 4 decades, not one broadcast network had placed a black woman at the center of a drama series. And Washington understood, with total clarity, exactly what she was carrying onto her shoulders. "If I didn't give it my all and do the best work I was capable of," she once said, "they weren't going to put another black woman in the #1 role on a TV drama for another 40 years. So the idea that she somehow coasted into the role of Olivia Pope insults both the enormous pressure she bore and the way she actually won the part. Shonda Rhimes built the character around a real-life crisis manager, Judy Smith, herself a black woman, and then held open auditions. And Washington competed against Gabrielle Union and Taraji P. Henson, among others, winning the role purely on the strength of what she did in that room. Born in 1977 in the Bronx and trained at George Washington University, she had already appeared in films like Ray and The Last King of Scotland. Scandal ran for 7 seasons and made her the first black woman nominated for the Lead Actress Drama Emmy in 18 years. And its success produced real, measurable change. Within just 2 seasons, Viola Davis was leading her own Rhimes drama. The door that Kerry Washington opened in 2012 rewrote what the networks believed was even possible. That is the true legacy, not a whispered favor, but a black actress and a black showrunner meeting at exactly the right moment and changing television forever. Cuba Gooding Jr. The rumor claimed that Cuba Gooding Jr.'s rise was really explained by a personal bond with director John Singleton, rather than by anything he actually did on screen. The very same tired pattern that gets applied to any black actor who succeeds a little too quickly for an industry that believes their success must require some excuse. The timeline alone dismantles it, cleanly and completely. In 1991, Singleton was assembling Boys Night the Hood, and needed someone who could carry Trey Styles, the film's beating moral center. A young man trying to build a future in a neighborhood engineered to prevent exactly that. He chose Gooding, then just 23 years old, the son of main ingredient singer Cuba Gooding Sr., with only a handful of small television credits and a background in gymnastics and breakdancing to his name. It was not an obvious choice at all. It became a defining one. The film earned $57.5 million against a modest budget, received 2 Academy Award nominations, and made Singleton the first black filmmaker and the youngest person ever nominated for Best Director. But here is the detail the rumor always conveniently skips right past. Cuba Gooding Jr. did not win his own Academy Award until 1997, a full 5 years later, for Jerry Maguire, and its now immortal "Show Me the Money" scene opposite Tom Cruise. 5 years of steady work separated his breakthrough from his Oscar. Singleton would later speak with real pride at Gooding's Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony. Their friendship and their mutual respect entirely genuine and entirely professional. A career that takes half a decade to travel from a debut to an Academy Award is not the product of favoritism. It is the product of a young actor proving himself, role by role, until the industry had no choice left but to hand him its very highest honor. The mentorship was real. So was the work that made it matter. Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard's story is a genuinely strange one, but the strangeness has nothing at all to do with the rumor, and everything to do with the documented facts of his life. By 2008, he had already earned an Oscar nomination for Hustle and Flow, and played James Rhodes in the very first Iron Man, establishing himself as one of the most intense dramatic actors of his generation. And then he was replaced in Iron Man 2 by Don Cheadle over a salary dispute, a deeply public humiliation reported all around the world, before drifting into a long run of controversies, from troubling allegations to bewildering interviews about mathematical theories he called Terryology, until much of Hollywood had quietly written him off as too unpredictable to hire. And then Lee Daniels cast him as Lucius Lyon in Empire anyway, and the gossip immediately called it personal feeling, overriding all professional logic. But the documented explanation is far more interesting than the whisper. Daniels had already directed Howard in The Butler in 2013, and he understood, better than anyone, precisely how Howard's volatility, his grandiosity, his absolute refusal to be contained, could be transformed into exactly the kind of operatic television performance that Empire so desperately needed. Lucius Lyon, a ruthless and magnetic music mogul, was never a role for a controlled, predictable, easy actor. It was a role for someone who could make an entire room uncomfortable simply by entering it. And Terrence Howard could do that better than almost anyone alive. Empire premiered in January of 2015 as the most-watched drama debut in the history of the Fox network, and Howard anchored it for 103 episodes across 6 full seasons. Daniels defended him publicly, again and again. Their bond is real and well documented, and whether it runs any deeper than professional loyalty is something neither man has ever claimed. What no one can dispute is the result. A difficult, brilliant actor, given the exact role his specific fire was built for, carrying a genuine cultural phenomenon on his back for 6 years. Monique. Monique's story is not a rumor at all. It is one of the most thoroughly documented, most painful, and most instructive accounts of raw power that Hollywood has produced in the last 20 years, and it has been confirmed by both of the people at its very center. In 2009, she played Mary, a monstrous and ultimately tragic mother, in Lee Daniels' Precious, and her performance was so devastating that she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. She was, for one shining moment, on top of the entire world. And then, the phone simply stopped ringing. Monique has stated publicly, including in a 2015 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, that Daniels personally telephoned her and told her that she had been blackballed because she had declined to carry out unpaid international promotional appearances for Precious after she had already fulfilled every obligation in her contract. She had been paid $50,000 for the film. The studio wanted still more of her time, for free, and she said no. The word that quietly went out about her was that she was difficult, and the combined influence of the industry's most powerful figures was enough to cut off her access to major work for well over a decade. This is the exact inversion of the rumor this entire story exists to examine. Not a woman who traded anything at all to rise, but a woman punished with startling cruelty, simply for refusing to work for free. And the ending matters enormously. In April of 2022, Lee Daniels walked onto the stage of Monique's comedy show in Staten Island and said, publicly and plainly, "I am so sorry for hurting you in any way that I did." She was my best friend. She accepted his apology, and they announced a reunion. The 2024 Netflix film, The Deliverance. The reconciliation was real. So was the decade of damage. Her career is the clearest evidence against the rumor that exists. Thandiwe Newton. Thandiwe Newton's story is the one that lays bare the sheer ugliness beneath this entire genre of rumor. Because within it, she is not an opportunist at all. She is a survivor of it. This is not speculation, and it is not gossip. It is fact, stated by Newton herself, across decades of on-the-record interviews. She was just 16 years old when she auditioned for director John Duigan's 1991 film Flirting in Australia. Duigan was 39. He cast her, and then he pursued a relationship with a teenager over whose entire fledgling career he held complete and total authority. A relationship that went on to last 6 years. Newton later told InStyle magazine, in words chosen with terrible care, "I wasn't in control of the situation. In retrospect, although it was legal because I was 16, I was coerced." She has described feeling utterly unable to refuse a man who alone decided whether she would work at all, and she has spoken about the lasting psychological damage it caused her. Damage she worked through in years of therapy, before ever choosing to speak of it publicly. And she did so, not because she wanted sympathy, but because she understood that the silence surrounding such things is exactly what protects the people who exploit. And here is why her story belongs at the very heart of this conversation. At the time it was happening, the tabloids and the industry insiders did not describe a powerful adult exploiting a vulnerable child. They described, instead, a young actress cleverly using her sexuality to get ahead. The predator was quietly made sympathetic. The victim was recast as calculating. That grotesque inversion is the rumor this whole story interrogates, shown in its cruelest possible form. And yet Newton built an extraordinary career entirely apart from that man. Emmy and BAFTA recognition for Westworld, a standout role in Mission Impossible, and a place in Crash, which won Best Picture in 2005. Her talent had nothing whatsoever to do with him. Her trauma, tragically, did. Tyrese Gibson. The rumor that trails Tyrese Gibson quietly ignores one of the most genuinely American success stories imaginable. The story of a kid who sold himself, quite literally, on the strength of his own voice alone. He was born in 1978 and raised in the Watts neighborhood of South Central Los Angeles, and he became famous at just 16 years old, not through any connection or any favor, but by winning a Coca-Cola commercial in 1994, singing the jingle on a public city bus in an advertisement that ran so constantly, it made his face and his voice known all across the country before he had a single acting credit to his name. He took that unlikely burst of visibility and turned it into a real and lasting R&B career, releasing a platinum-selling album and earning a Grammy nomination, and only then did he turn toward the movies. And it was John Singleton, that same director with a gift for spotting raw, unpolished authenticity from the streets of South Central, who cast him as the lead in Baby Boy in 2001. Tyrese carried that entire film on his shoulders. From there, he built a career that very few could ever have predicted, joining the Fast and Furious franchise as the wisecracking Roman Pierce in Too Fast, Too Furious in 2003, a role he has now played across many entries in a series that has earned more than $7 billion around the globe, and appearing in the blockbuster Transformers films as well. Whatever the whisper preferred to quietly imply about him, Tyrese's true origin is a matter of public broadcast history for anyone who cares to look. He was discovered singing on a bus, in a commercial that millions of Americans watched. He built each step upon the momentum of the one before it. The rumor always wants a secret. The truth is a Coca-Cola ad, a platinum record, and a director who understood that some authenticity simply cannot be cast any other way.